Welcome to Pay-Per-View. In this session, I'm going to teach you how to fold this little guy. I call him Super Dude. I designed him back in 2011. I'm not allowed to call him Superman because I think DC Comics would probably have my guts for garters. But it's a typical caped superhero. We all know that superheroes that wear capes aren't as cool as the other superheroes because capes get caught in jet engines. But that's another story. I want to show you how to fold him. As it turns out, I've designed him based on an A3 or A4 sheet. A lot of origami is folded with square, some not, and this one isn't folded with a square. So start with a piece of printer paper. This is just normal old printer paper. It works fine. It gets a bit thick, but it works fine. So the idea is that we have a whole bunch of pre-creases, and you can see up in the browser window there the creases that I designed that we're going to lay in, and I found it a fairly easy way of doing that. Let me just switch views and swizzle the camera so that you can get a side view of what I'm doing as well. Alrighty, start with your piece of A4. And the aim is to first of all divide it in long ways. You need a middle line as a guideline. Nice, crisp crease. Use your thumbnail if you've got one, just to lay in that crease because that's going to do some work later. Open it back up. Now we want to fold the long edge into the middle on both sides. It is important that you are as accurate as you can because we're going to have a whole bunch of layers soon, and the more layers, the more likely there will be that there will be error. Error is a bit of an issue, so try and be accurate. So I'm doing a book fold here. I'm just folding the two outside edges into the middle guideline and making sure those creases are nice and crisp. Now, arbitrarily pick an end. That's going to be the end that has, on the model, the head and arms. The other end is going to be the end of the cape, as it turns out. And we're going to put some legs in between. So we're going to have head and arms this end, legs about there, end of cape there. We've got a bit of work before we can get there. Take this corner and fold it to the middle line, trying to be as accurate as you can. Nice crisp crease. Run your fingernail through it. Do the same on the opposite corner. Now with those folded, and leave them folded, we're now going to add some creases over the top of them. But because this paper is bent, you'll see what it does to those creases in a little while. So I want to take this edge, fold it into the middle, try and stop the paper from sliding. The inside layers are going to try and slide out of the way, don't let them. We've now got a crease through 4 layers, and that's probably as thick as we want to in order to remain accurate. So the flap that we've just folded in, fold that edge back to this newly folded edge, like that. So what you're effectively doing is folding a 1/16. So we're actually doing 1/16. Nice crease through all layers. It's thick up this end. Turn the model around, do the same here. So this crease into the middle line and then back to the newly folded line, making sure that the layers don't slide as you do it. Nice crease. And that layer back out to the line you've just made. Try and be as accurate as you're able. Nearly done with the long creases. Flip the whole model over, and we want to take this edge into the middle line, again trying to make sure that the layers don't move as you do it. Try and keep it accurate into the middle line. Reach underneath and just make that crease nice and crisp as well. Nice and sharp. Turn the model over. Fold that whole assembly into the middle line, trying not to let the layers underneath move too much. And lift that and lay in those creases really heavily. Alright, we've done all our long creasing, now we've got to do some cross creasing. So we have to undo everything we've done so far. So I'm just on the wrong side currently, just laying it flat, turning it over, undoing those creases, and then opening the whole model up. So the net effect of folding in those corners before you started doing the creases is that now you have some fairly standard box pleated bent corner gutters. We'll use those. This point here is going to be one of the arms, the other arm is way over here. This point in the middle is eventually going to be his head. The rest of this is going to be body, legs and cape. Now to work out how big the cape is, we've got to do a little bit of guesstimation. And the way I choose to do the guesstimation is I choose to form a letter S, because we're wanting roughly thirds, but not quite thirds of the whole sheet, thirds of the distance between the bottom of this V and the end of the sheet. So I want to wrap the paper into an S shape to create creases at about a third of the distance between that bottom point and the end of the sheet. And you've got to shimmy a little bit, but you've got quite a few guide creases that you can use to make sure you're going straight. So bring the paper up, bring the paper back, and you create an S shape, which you can then shimmy. Now we don't need too much for the cape, and this top layer is going to be the cape. So I like to put the cape on first once I've got it approximately right. So I think that's about right. We're not quite at the bottom of that V. There's a little bit of a gap between the cape and the bend underneath. So now I'm going to pinch where the cape is, open it back out, line up all my creases all the way across and the edges, and put in the first crease. Then turn it back over, take this newly creased line and run it almost up to those V's. You can have a couple of mil gap. Line up all the creases, they should all line up, then put a line in. So, in terms of the way the model is going to work, what we've got is this top layer, which is going to be the cape, this double layer, which we're going to make legs out of, and then this sticky out top layer here will be the arms and the head. To make the legs easier, we want gutter creases a bit like this, but we want them under the cape. So lift the cape forward, out of the way so we don't put any more creases in it. That's going to have a nice, as you can see, it has a nice fan effect on it if you don't do any more creases. Right, fold the whole model in half along one of the existing creases. So this is the middle line, these are the raw edges on the outside. Here now you take this corner and you fold it along 1, 2, 3. 3 lines in from the raw edge, 1, 2, 3. So you fold it so that it lines up with the third crease line all the way along the model. And fold, there are 4 layers there, so you're going to need to work to get a crease through all of that. Next, what you have to do is you have to transfer the already long running creases through this small section that we've just folded over, because it has creases going the wrong way. We can do that pretty easily just by using the existing creases and bending the whole model along those existing creases and reinforcing at this triangle. So forwards, backwards, it's a bit like a fan, forwards, so you're extending the creases through this new piece of uncreased triangle. And the last one, is usually the least accurate. But what I have now done, I'm going to open that back up, as you can see, I have continued these long creases through that triangle that was folded over. When you unfold that triangle, you've now got these rectangular gutter creases. They're useful. Unfold the whole model and put the cape back where it was, because we're now ready to make the whole model. Right, so we've got this sticky uppy flap, that's the cape. This part that is going to be the body and the legs, and this part that's going to be the arms and the head. So put the cape down. We've now got 3 layers through here. And what we need to do is we need to fold it up like a fan. Now you'll notice that these exposed pieces that are the head and the arms have these rectangular sections with 45-degree corners. We can use those as collapse lines. So, I'll show you how it works. We're going to create a fan with the body. And you'll notice that the creases are already going in sort of the right direction. The cape up, the outside edge goes up, next crease goes down, next crease up, down, up. And if you have a look at what's happening up here, it's almost doing the right thing. We can help it. There are already creases in place, so I'm not adding any new folds at all. All I'm doing is I'm helping it follow the lines that are already on the paper. Up, down, and the middle one goes up. I'm going to tidy that half first, just so before I squish it all flat, I'm just going to tidy it up to make sure that these lines now are all sitting neatly. You can see that right there. It's created a box pleated fan. And you can push this, there's a crease already in the middle there, you can push that closed. And what you've now got is an arm sticking out. This is going to be the neck and head. This is the first arm. Now we're going to mirror this on the other side, but we're not adding any new creases. We're only going on existing creases. Outside edge, up, then down, then up, then down, then up. So this is a fan fold or an accordion pleat. This is not as tidy as you can see, but we can fix it. So the outside edge goes up, reaching in underneath to push the creases up into their right places. Fold, 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 and the model itself now sits relatively flat. And that is almost all the work that we need to do. We have buried the cape though in the body. So notice that we're still with the cape facing up, but the cape is now deep inside these sets of creases here. So we've got to dig them out. The easiest way to do that is, while holding the body, you lift each individual piece of cape up just above the ridge that it came out of. You work your way along. You're not creating any new creases, but you are straining the hinge up here. And that's a good thing. We want to strain it just a little bit to allow the cape to sit up above the body. So you can see what I'm doing is I'm just pulling up the cape. I've grabbed all of it now. So now what I want to do is I want to pull the cape up into the air a little bit. Then I have to tidy it back into the body and smush it a smidge just so it sits back down and we end up with the cape sticking up a little bit, and later we will fan that out just to make it look like a cape. This now is where the guy's shoulders are, and that's handy because his arms come off his shoulders, so that sort of works in terms of the way the body works. The cape is coming off his shoulders, and we've got this double layer where we've got to make the legs. Now I normally put the cape underneath as you flip the model over. Spread the paper, that will eventually be the legs, and you can see the creases that you have made. There's a V shape that goes up here and goes down there. Now this is a standard box pleating technique that allows you to create a triangular shaped divot in an otherwise square shape. So what we have to do is we have to encourage the paper along the existing creases. Again, we're not adding any new creases yet. So there's a line across one unit out from the edge. I'm going to encourage that line up, and it should meet at a diagonal crease and form a nice corner. The next line is going to be a mountain fold. So I encourage it from underneath and make sure that that edge is 45 degrees, that edge is 45 degrees. The next one is a valley fold, so I help it to find its right place. And then the very last one I have to reach in underneath and push up to be a mountain fold. There's a little triangle that's left over. When you close that off, it pushes itself up inside the model. So now we have all of the model's bits in the right places. We've got a head, arm, arm, leg, leg, and the cape. The rest of the model is shaping, and there's lots and lots of ways to shape. Let me show you my favourite way to shape this model. First thing I do is I work on the arms. So I take an arm, the middle one there is the head. We'll do the head in a moment. We'll give him a really 50s haircut too. What you do with the arm is you bend it in half along the length of the arm, like this. So I'm bending it in half. When you get up to the shoulder, it causes what's called a rabbit's ear, which is a little triangular gusset. Scrunch it a smidge and then force it down. There's the first arm folded. I'll do the same with the second arm. So on the outside, I fold it in half. The gutter of the half is the outside of the model. And when I get close to the shoulder, it forms a little triangle. I squish that and then squish the arm down. Now there's lots of other things you can do here. I like to put elbows in, and the way I do that is I open up the previously closed arm, fold some of the arm through and back, and then close it up, and that creates a nice little elbow. But there are lots of options there. You can smush, you can turn it completely inside out, just do an outside reverse fold, which is a little less work. I like the inside reverse fold because it gives you a little bit better control over the angle and it looks a bit more like an elbow. You can also mess around with the very ends here and put hands if you like. I use the same technique that I use for the elbow, but with much less paper, just to give him hands. So I'm pretty happy with his arms for the moment. We're going to work on his head next. Now his head has a neck, and we've got to form the neck first. Now the way to do that is to go to the underside of the model, so that not the cape side, but underneath. And you can open it up and then push the whole head down through that gap and close it up just to put a nice crease in. So now the head's bending in entirely the wrong direction. So we then open that up, bend it back up, leaving a little kink of paper in there just so that we can adjust the angle of the head a little bit. That's the net effect. The head is now at a jaunty angle. Now, hairstyle. Open the head back up, and I take the corner off first by bending the corner back. Nice little tuck. Then I take more of that flap back to give him sideburns and hair. So I folded that all the way back. Then when I close it, it now looks like he's got a regulation crew cut or a bowl cut, and I'm not unhappy with that. So now he's got a neck and he's got arms. We can play with the cape in a little while. We've now got to model the legs. Here's where it gets hard work because there are now lots of layers of paper. The first thing I do is I turn him over so that the cape is underneath the model. And I spread the body carefully and spread his legs to push his junk down. This triangle is his junk. Now that that's all facing south, I can now do middle line creases through both legs and part way up the body. So this is the inside of the body, and I can do modelling here and give him a six-pack as well if I really want to. This is a bit thick to do that, but I use my thumb to run a line down through the middle of the leg, closing it up as I go, and the body up sort of to the top of his chest. I do the same on the other side. Again, using my thumb, close, 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 and work on his chest a little bit. So that's his six-pack there. You can put in crimp marks and give him a six-pack if you've got nails. I also tend to twist the legs so that they are facing up. Twist, and that keeps the body closed as well. To make the form of the body again. Twist the legs so that the open valley is facing the bottom of the cape. Takes a little bit of smushing to do that, but the net effect is quite neat in that you've got narrowed legs. Now we can put in feet, and we should put in feet. I use the same trick as I did for the elbow. I open up the middle layers, push everything through, push everything back, making a little divot as I do that. That gives him shoes or feet. I don't know, does Superman wear shoes? He wears boots. This guy's got feet, clubby looking feet. Now in terms of styling, what you do with the model from now on is entirely up to you. I tend to put a knee on one leg because most of the things I've seen Superman flying, he tends to fly with one knee bent slightly. Not sure why. You can just grab the whole thing and bend it to make a knee. So he's now got one knee up, one knee straight. The only thing left to do is to spread the cape. And you can do that as much or as little as you like. As it turns out, I discovered by complete accident that if you spread the cape out evenly, then you can actually throw him. And because the cape is spread out and most of the weight is in the front and underneath, he actually flies like a paper plane. I kid you not. Worth a try. Your turn. Have a go at making Super Dude. I'd be interested in how you go. post a picture somewhere if you can, because I'm really interested in whether or not you are able to follow this set of instructions. Good luck.